All right, welcome today. Today we're going to be talking about how to make an object grow and shrink, so change. Basically animate an object on the screen. Now, we can't do this by changing an object. Once we draw something, it's stuck there. But what we can do is make it look like it's growing by drawing another thing on top of it slightly bigger. It's like those little flip books that have all the different pictures on them. As you flip through, it looks like there's motion when there really isn't. We're going to do something like that today. All right. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to do this by creating circles. So I'm just going to grab a draw circle command, and I don't know where my when started block is. Drag that onto the when started block. Actually, first thing you should do is save your file. So click up here. I named mine, my name, and then growing and shrinking for a file name. That's a good name for you to use as well. Once you've done saving that, make sure you're saving the engineering folder and the Vex Robotics folder. We're going to do draw a circle, and let's put this circle at 240, 120, and with a radius of, I don't know, 5. Let's just actually stay with 10. We'll play with that in a second. So basically what we're going to do is draw another circle on top of this circle and the center of the thing, but making it slightly bigger each time. We could do that in sort of a dumb way, which would be to add another circle here and then do 240, 120, and 11. And if we did that 100 times, we could make this thing 110 wide, but that would be a real nuisance. So instead of that, we're going to use what's called repeats. When we're coding stuff, we're going to often find times when we want to repeat a few lines of code. A repeat loop is great for that. So we're going to put that inside a repeat loop, and now we want to change the radius. And we'll have to do what's called a variable for that. So variables are fantastic. They allow us to change the variables. And I've created one. So if you click on make a variable here and you type in like radius, then hit submit, you'll get a radius one just like this. I already had one on mine. So I'm going to drag this radius variable and put it where I would normally put the radius. Now all variables are assumed to equal 0 unless you set a new value for them. I like to always set values for my variable. So here at the top, outside of my repeat loop, I'm going to set my variable. I'm going to set the radius variable. I'm going to set it to 10. So now this sets the variable radius, and then that number 10 gets put right there wherever you see radius. Awesome. So now we're doing 10 of them with radius at the 10. To make the radius get bigger, we're going to come down here and grab a change my variable block and drop it right after the draw circle, but inside the repeat loop. We're going to change this to radius, and we're going to change this by 2 each time. And then maybe we're going to do 100 repeats. And let's just download this and see what it looks like. You can see I have this growing circle, okay? And I'm going to actually change this to 50 to make it not grow off the screen. Download that and run it again. Awesome. So we have this circle that's growing. It's growing really fast, but it's growing, so that's kind of cool. If I wanted to slow it down, one thing I could do is throw a wait block in here. And I could add some small amount of time. 1 second's a huge amount of time for the animations. So 0.01, 1/100th of a second. Download this and run it. So now I've got a growing circle. And I can do other things. I can add some fill color to it. So just drop a fill color command in here. Again, I'm dropping this outside the loop because it doesn't need to be repeated every time. And then download and run that. And now I've got a red circle with a white line around it. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to shrink this circle. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V, put it down here. So instead of change radius by a +2, I'm going to change the radius by a negative number, which means it gets smaller. And I'm going to choose -3 so we can kind of see what happens. I'm going to download this, and I'm going to run it. You can see that this is something very strange happens. So to kind of see better what happens, let's change this to a -5 and download that and run it. See how those white lines are getting farther apart? What that's telling us is that it's drawing smaller circles on top of the bigger circles that are already there. So to make this work, we actually need to come in here and black out the big circle as we make a smaller circle underneath, so as we reveal something. The way we're going to do that is we're literally going to just come here and grab another circle command. We're going to change the x coordinates to 240, 120, just like before. The idea here is that we're going to erase the previous circle. We're going to copy and paste, so just click on a radius real quick and do Control-C, Control-V. Then I'll paste one for you. And then we're going to make this circle black. So let's go with a set fill color to black. That'll match the back of the screen, so it basically erases it. And then we need to change the fill color again when we get here. And we need to change our fill color to back to red, or whatever color you want it to be. Okay. And then we also need to set the pen color here to black, because we have a pen still as well. So we want to black out the pen color as well. And then that means we need to turn the pen color back on if we want a pen color. So here we're going to put a pen color here, and except that's two pen colors. Let me delete one of these. I need the fill color here. I grabbed the wrong one earlier. So we'll set the pen color back to white like it was, and maybe we'll even, just to be clear on that, the pen color here, we'll set it to white as well. That way we know all this is coming from. You could leave the pen colors out if you want. It's just another way of doing it. So here's what happens. You enter this repeat loop. You draw a circle at the center of the thing with a radius of 10. The radius variable changes by 2, so it changes from 10 to 12. The circle doesn't change, just the value of that variable changes. It waits a small time, loops back up, and draws a new circle with a radius of 12 now. Then it increases the radius from 12 to 14, and then loops again and draws a 14, and then a 16, and then 18. So it draws circle after circle on top of each other. Each one covers up the last, so we don't have to worry about anything. And then when we get here, we want to draw a black circle with a black pen, and we want to draw that at the same radius as our last circle was at. So whatever this left off at, so it left off at a radius of 110, because 2 times each time, for 50 times, it's 100 times, plus the starting 10 is 110. So this blacks out this circle now, and now we actually want to change the radius. So I'm going to move this change radius block, put the weight back at the bottom. I'm going to put it in between these two colors. Because once I draw the black one, that blacks out the last one, and now I want to change the radius and draw in my next color. And so I'm just going to download this and run it. You can see how now it looks like it gets smaller. And it looks like it's smaller faster because I have a bigger change here than I do here. So I can change the speed of it by making it grow more each time, by changing the amount of wait time here, and by changing the number of repeat loops will also change how big it gets in the end. So you have a lot of things to play with to make it look like what you want it to look like. All right, we've got a lot of complex things going on here, so let's get some comments in here to explain our code real quick. So this first thing here is this grows the circle. Okay. And this next set of code right here, so I'm going to put a comment for these next 3 lines of code right here, and this is going to be erases the previous circle. By drawing a black circle. Okay. And then this next one is decreases the radius and draws a new smaller circle. So even with just those few little tidbits of information in there, if we come and look at this again in a month, or if you ask me for help and I come look at your code, I can very quickly understand what your code is trying to do and help you with pointers, or you'll know what it's doing later on. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you can grow and shrink. Try some of the other options and activities in terms of growing and shrinking.